Hello, Garland Nixon here with Andrei Martyanov, and we're going to talk. There's talk of offensives in the air in Ukraine, whether that's going to happen or not. But we're going to talk about what that would actually look like in this day and age. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here with Andrei Martyanov, a very, very busy man. I saw him on two or three different interviews today, and I almost feel guilty. But what we're going to talk about something, and I want to talk with Andrei. I like to talk to him about actual military things, military issues, and maybe we can learn a little bit about the background talk that's going on. Okay, we hear all the talk about actual discussion about offensives, right? And the term that we've heard over and over is big arrow offensive. And what we think about traditionally is a column of tanks, a line of people, 1,000 whatever's charging into each other, the old Roman days, and two, phalanxes of soldiers slamming into each other and all of that kind of stuff. But modern day warfare in the last 3 years in particular has completely changed. And everybody said this will be an artillery war. Artillery war, it's all about artillery and artillery. And it kind of started off that way, but now it's a technological war. Drones are, people say a drone war. Drones are technology. The types of standoff weapons, things of that nature, ISR, etc. So while people start off saying an artillery war, Andrei, and then the term we started hearing was drone war, but I tend to think of it as really more than anything a technology war. What does the modern day offensive look like, and can you even have an offensive in the traditional way that we understood one to be?
No, you can concentrate troops. It depends on the operational planning. It depends on a lot of things which you have to prepare in the what would be called tactical rear, and how you will form your echelons. You still can do it. You still can do those. And there are so many things which go in there. And fact is, one of the reasons, for example, why it is a drone war, it's an organic, very natural development of the drones. It's just one of the other means of delivery of the charge, the explosive charge. That's what it is. So, of course, it has its own advantages, but it shouldn't be perceived as some kind of the drone war. It's not. Artillery, and especially MLRS of the long distance, for example. Let's say Tornado, Russian Tornado or Tornado, it can cover 80 kilometers easily, So the only drone you can reach it with will be some kind of the long-range drone or something like Bayraktar type, which have been completely discredited. They are being shot down left and right, and so you don't hear about them anymore. They were completely suppressed by the air defense. And so it is more complex, a profile changed, but all of it as before, artillery and other means of the delivery of the explosives still there. They still are very active. We still have actually one of the reasons why Ukraine literally has the 3D printers, and they print there. They print mines, they print all kinds of stuff, including drones. And because this is what as much as was left for them after they encountered indeed all kinds of the tactical things. And tactical, what is called the прием, tactical прием, which is tactical, not trick. I cannot say it's trick. It's the tactical, mean, if you wish. And new of them have been developed, but it still remains there. What you have to have the infantry on the ground. You have to have armor. and you have plenty of armor there. It's just that it is different way of the dispersing itself, different way of distributing of the firepower. And of course, in terms of long-range fires, as I already stated, 80 plus kilometers tornado, all kinds of systems like that, which are unreachable really by anything, unless of course something similar which can operate against them. And just to give you an example, Russia is now serially produces this, I mean, it's absolutely terrifying weapon. It's called Koalitsiya SV. It's a self-propelled howitzer, 152 millimeter. It outranges anything out there by such margin. It's almost unfair. It shoots at 70 kilometers range. Can you imagine? Yeah, that and using the, of course, all kinds of the smart munitions. And yes, there is a tactical shift a little bit, well, significant in terms of drones, but you still can basically accumulate forces. You still have to pre-assemble them. You still have to place them in the assembly area, or you have to disperse them in such a way that you can really join them on the march, if you wish. And the only reason it didn't happen before, because Russia sees no need to, well, first, when you attack like this and you go on offensive on this scale, you're going to lose more people. So you have to exhaust the enemy, and many people do not understand. And I repeat it ad nauseum that Russia fights NATO. We now know that Russia fights United States because it is all United States Army, all those templates, all those field manuals. They are very easily predictable. And I looked up today the latest data, another almost 1,400 killed on Ukrainian side. And Russians will continue to do this until there's nothing left. And that is why you have this panic and hysteria in the West, including the United States, because they know 18-year-olds, companies made out of women, it's all there now, constantly and regularly encountered on the line of the combat contact. So that tells you something, doesn't it? In fact, yes, they even throw into this meat grinder people who used to be untouchable. For example, like air defense operators and things of this nature. They are now thrown into infantry, and of course they are killed either by Russians or they are shot back by very many NATO so-called instructors. They are really good at actually being the barrier troops. They shoot into the backs of the retreating troops.
Now, let me ask you this. Have drones changed artillery and the various medium range, that's long range fire, medium and intermediate range fire? It seems to me that drones have been much more integrated into targeting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a wonderful mean for their tactical awareness, and they obviously are used extensively for the targeting. They have all those night vision infrared channels on them. They're pretty sophisticated in this respect. So yeah, you have now the swarms of the drones, what many people obviously mistakenly call artificial intelligence. It is not artificial intelligence, but it is swarm technology, advanced algorithms, which for some reason are called artificial intelligence. But yeah, they fly now in teams. They have the loitering munitions, and they actually, some of them on the Russian side for sure, they have the drones which actually can command the swarms of the loitering munitions, producing and distributing targeting on the tactical tactical range, essentially. And we're talking about tactical in this particular case, something on the, let's say, 20 kilometers in depth, something like this. Now Russians have the drones which easily loiter to 50 kilometers. I mean, just the whole swarm. So yeah, it's advancing, no doubt about it. But again, it is just the part of the much larger picture. And if the big arrow, I can tell you one thing: the arrows, those red arrows, which everybody expects or anticipates, actually they were growing larger. Before that, you would see the red arrow going into some locality, well,
Mhm.
1.5 kilometer today, you look at those arrows, wow, it's like 4.5 kilometer, penetration, things of this nature. Just to give you example, many people missed it. What they don't know, because they have been obviously very concentrated on Kursk area, but Russians are already operating well beyond Kursk area. They're already to Bogdanovka. They're already on the way to Sumy, and they're operating in the Sumy region of Ukraine, which will be most likely former Sumy region of Ukraine pretty soon. So it's you have those suddenly arrows which are you look at the scale on the map and they move quite a bit. It's just that the reality of the on the ground there, and I spoke about this since the very beginning. If you look attentively at the terrain, it is essentially one huge village and one huge urban area. That's what it is. You go from one village to another town, where the one town ends, the other begins, so, and this is, you have those spots of the free terrain, where you can see somebody, but primarily that's what it is, and it's not easy. And Russians are not rushing there, killing their own personnel. They do all kinds of things to, economize on their force, to maintain very low casualties. And the result, we can see the result pretty much.
It seems to me that the discussion of a big arrow offensive or a big offensive, or the Russians are coming in a big offensive, implies that they're in a hurry. Implies that they're, to me, it's a Western view of things. Well, they want, there's always something like this. May 9th is coming. They want to take, Snake Island or something by May 9th. It always implies Western that there's a lot of PR to it, that the Russians want to do this by a certain date or blah, blah, blah. It seems to me that the Russians are more like very technically and tactically focused on what they want. And it's not really connected to calendars or outside dates or the kind of things that the West does.
The word, you finally use the word which matters. From the get-go, and I know this firsthand, I know from my friends, and the term which was used by Putin and the chief of the general staff, of the army general Gerasimov, we untie you from calendar. Russians are untied. The Russian army untied from the calendar. There are no dates. There are no nothing. They just, we go and improvise as we go. And of course, their objectives also changing. Political objectives changing. Before that, it was coercing Ukraine. Now it is, let's be honest, it's about cutting Ukraine to size of several regions, and that's it. You see, it changed, but the main political objectives remain absolutely unchanged: demilitarization and denazification. If denazification goes through the annihilation of the most fanatical parts of the population, male population, which is the part of the armed forces, so so be it. It's just the way it is. That's reality. War is not a game. It's not a toy. And that is why many people in the West, including American generals who planned and command and control Ukrainian forces, they don't understand that. They have no experience with all that, So they watch too much, rewatch probably pattern movie. They think that war is just, they always expect that Russians will start, Kursk battle, then, Kursk Belgrade strategic operation. And, but look at the map. Russia occupies now almost a third of the Ukraine. And fact is, Russians are not in a rush because there is a whole other, operation ongoing there, which is operation by the special forces, operation by the law enforcement, operation by the counterintelligence. They are massive. They are massive in its scale. Many people do not understand that actually Sheremetyevo Airport in Moscow, the main entry point for many Ukrainians, it's filled with Ukrainian refugees not in terms of who they run from Ukraine. No, they are being checked by FSB. And they wait sometimes up to 3 days. And many of them, some people say more than something like on the order of 30,000. I don't know the number. I can look it up, that FSB says That is why they all erase everything in their phones, and just to make sure. Oh, you provided donations for the Azov battalion. Bye bye.
Right.
And you're never coming back here. Period. That's what is happening. And the same goes on the border points. So elsewhere. And many people still do not understand this. Russians, and especially FSB and Minister of the Internal Affairs and Rosguard, they have their hands full handling. Especially, that is why many people completely missed it 2 weeks ago. Vladimir Putin signed this executive order. You can look it up. It's on the Kremlin.ru. I actually spoke about it. They changed completely the immigration and refugee status for all Ukrainians in Russia. That if you are not registered for military service, and if you are illegal, bye-bye. And now, what is most importantly, you don't have to go through the immigration courts. It's Minister of the Internal Affairs, police, which decides who you are and if we want you here or not. And this is huge. And many people just don't understand. This is all related. It's all tied to special military operation, apart from the regular immigration, issues such as Middle Asia, all those, gastarbeiters coming to Russia. So, and yeah, this is huge operation in itself. And this is not just military. This is all of it. And it's kind of rolls like the steamroller, because why would you take Kharkov now? Can Russians take Kharkov? Yes, they will pay the price, but they can. Why? For what reason? To get what? 1.5 million, pissed off Russian hating population? You see, this is very interesting. Once Russians entered the Sumy region after the Kursk, basically, they killed the whole combined arms army. They went into Sumy region. And now, openly the commands of the core and actually the what is there called operational access, operational direction. They say, we already did some secret, poll among people in Sumy itself, city of Sumy, the capital of the Sumy region, and in the nearby, villages. They wait to join Russia. They want to be Russians, okay. Can we go now there? Yes, we can. So that makes sense, that you have to tread water very cautiously. And that is why Russians never gave what was the plan of NATO. They wanted Russians to rush in and get bogged down into this Afghanistan type. Well, they are very uneducated and uncultured militarily people, all those, Pentagon generals, they don't know, pardon me, crap from Shinola. But the point is that this is what is happening. And they constantly need to prod Russia with something like, don't use tactical nukes. Russians say, what tactical nukes? Why would we use them? We just well without them. Now, why don't you go with this offensive? Why? When Russians have to literally digest all those 4 new regions, the 5th one is coming. And so who knows what comes next? That is why, as you correctly stated, there is no tie in with calendar. It will go as long as needed.
What's interesting is this is what we've heard from the particularly more than anything else, the French and the Brits. Oh, we might have to send troops, right? And people are like, oh my gosh, these people are crazy enough to send troops. Well, if you start with the British military came out and said, oh, time out. Yeah, when Keir Starmer said we might go in, and the British military said, "What do you mean we? You going in? We got nothing." And the French, or to me, Macron is still mouthing off. But here's what I feel: he does not, even if he wanted to, which he doesn't have the troops to do it. There's no political will in any of the countries in Europe. The people in Europe are angry. Some of them may be brainwashed or hate Russians, but there is no political will in any country in Russia in Europe, to go to the border of Russia and die for Keir Starmer and Macron, because that would be their very, very rapid fate.
Europe is demoralized. Let's put it this way. It's absolutely demoralized. And, but yes, as much as they hate Russians, there is no desire to, and again, they, unlike Americans in this respect are much freer people. We still maintain our Bill of Rights here. We still have we have a lot of alternatives, okay, information-wise. But Europeans are very conformist, and they love their, establishment media. But even they can go out today, and as my blog and people from my friends from England, France, my dear readers and members, so they say, yeah, we know, we know there are many of us are brainwashed there, but many people understand. You go in, you're done, and of course, yeah, you are absolutely correct. When even British military and any educated operational level officer who does the planning, who does any kind of operational planning, the first thing which operational people do, they calculate their required force. Okay, they have all those things. I periodically speak about how it is done. They calculate all those probabilities, required forces. And that's what Russians do too, it's pretty much similar COFM correlation of forces and means. And Russians are not stupid, they're very good at math, so they know exactly, well, almost exactly now, what United States has, or rather doesn't have anymore in terms of resources. They know resources of Europe, they know personnel, they know how it integrates, and they, or rather, cannot integrate properly, how its combat effectiveness, plus minus. And when you look at the picture, there is nothing. They can still provide some, Britain today, it was confirmed, they have only 25 operational tanks. So that's a mighty force, man. I mean, these Russians are quaking.
Yeah, but you got to admit, those Challenger tanks are tough on the battlefield.
Oh my God, yeah, you saw how tough they are. And you see, I always say that, especially when you look attentively how one of them, there are a number of them, its turret was literally torn apart. And you can see the marbleization of the metal, which is, oh yeah, Chobham armor, secret. There's nothing secret. It shows you a very bad level of the metallurgy. Speaking of which, Britain probably will be, I believe soon, I even posted a blog from British Steel. They will have their own metallurgy at all. That will be the first, and they call it G7 country. This is the third world. Well, it's worse than the third world, Some African countries have bigger metallurgy than the United Kingdom, So, yeah, look at this, like, good Lord. And, yeah, but it is all PR. It is all brainwashing and manipulating people. So they have this, European media, American establishment media, war criminals, essentially, who are pushing for this, and as the result, when they face the reality on the ground, they simply are not oriented properly. Then now, after New York Times, you see, that's a funny thing. 2023, New York Times comes out with an article, and they speak about, before that, armed forces of Ukraine have been, made in the image of NATO forces. So great, I have this article, so it's all, and now suddenly 5 days ago, they come out and, we have been running the whole damn thing. We are really good. These were Ukrainians who screwed it up. Oh, really? So it's Russians are laughing. No, I mean, it's literally, I know the reaction, and especially professionals, it's like, dudes, choose your own league. United States and Pentagon had at its hand. Well, they are really good at killing civilians, but I mean, they had the best proxy United States ever had. It wasn't even close to South Vietnam. No, there's the West. It was the next best thing to Wehrmacht, to actually the Axis forces. After Axis forces, especially with the stellar Wehrmacht circa 1941, 1942, it was the best thing. They had 1 million army. They don't have it anymore. It was absolutely obliterated and torn apart with all those operational concepts, tactical things. I have this Business Insider was reprinting it, that when I have this article. If you want, I can send it to you. When they say that, oh my God, Ukrainian officers comes out to say, if we'll follow the tactical procedures from U.S. field manuals, we're going to get killed like really fast. But that's the funny thing. They were running this thing, those people, those officers, from Wiesbaden, and all those from the strategic to operational to tactical levels. There were Americans present tactically everywhere on the levels, even the companies, as Russians say, we can hear them constantly, So they failed, they lost. And now that's bad hurt, sore losers, and all kinds of whitewashing begins. And this New York Times article was one of the first big, so to speak, news about the fact that, oh yeah, it was United States and its NATO chihuahuas who planned, controlled it. And so now you see, the level of those people who did it.
Another thing I think is this, the little bit of success that they've had striking, whether it was Crimea or some other targets here.
Yeah.
They have an advantage that they wouldn't have if it was a real war. Their drones and some of their planes and stuff fly just along the edge of Russian airspace, just where the Russians look at them and say, we should really shoot them down, but we're not going to do it. And so they're able to gather data and target. If it was a real war, all that stuff would be shot down. None of that, all of that.
Including satellite constellations, they would be disabled largely, and they will be blind and deaf. And let me put it this way: U.S. Army cannot fight like this. I want to actually rewind it back to what's his name? Von Ripper, General Von Ripper, actually, Marine. It was 2002 thing, and he beat the crap out of this Blue Force, whatever they were wargaming, in 2002 because he went completely, totally topographic flags, Morse code, things, and he beat them, those guys with the, net-centric warfare. At that time, it was just in the early stages and things like that. And yeah, you can look him up. I don't remember. It was yet another eagle in the title of the war games, he emerged and said, yeah, I don't believe in that crap. I'm good old bad methods. He attacked them where they didn't expect and now removed that. The United States always fought with its ISR complex completely untouched. It's like what? What do you have in Afghanistan? Nothing. What do you have in Iraq? It's Air Force disintegrated into runaway. There is no air defense. They don't have any, informational support. Oh yeah, of course it's easy. You have satellites. You have all those planes. They go in, get your targeting. You have the target list. You approve it. Bang, they're gone. So and this is totally different game. You will be the target. That's the problem. And there's another thing. Most of the U.S. strictly, military satellites, they are at the orbits, unlike these Russian satellites. They are on the orbits which are easily reachable by Russian anti-sat weapons from the ground, something like S-500. So it shoots things at the orbits at 600 kilometers. If you take a look, the only successful interception of the satellite by one of the U.S. Ticonderoga class using SM-2 missile, SM-3, pardon me, it was about 250 to 280 kilometers. Recon satellites, fly at around 500. They never reach those heights. And so when you begin to look at those details, it's like, yeah, sure. And there is a panic there. Pentagon is on record constantly, just recently again, about the space forces that, Russians do this thing, they launch those inspection satellites. Inspection satellites are there to kill American satellites, so they come in close, inspect it, see what kind of satellite is that. If it's good, bad satellite in real war, it's either completely disabled by spraying. Even you can spray the paint in it, and kill their, the zooms, and or you can, kinetically strike it and just completely disable it. So, and that's the real war. United States never fought any war where they never had advantage over the enemy, and they encountered it, and you can see the result.
Now, another thing that I think is interesting now, and that is the dynamic nature of war. Here's what I mean. in this war, something that has happened that doesn't traditionally happen in war. I mean, it happens. Okay, World War II, you're going along and the Nazis come out with a new tank. Holy moly, what is this? Now we got to deal with this new tank. Or they come out with some new piece of artillery, something like that. What we've seen in this war is new types of drones. You know, first the Russians have, you know, the ones that apparently it is alleged that they got from
Iran.
Iran. And
Yeah.
then they take them and they change them dramatically. They do all kinds of things. So my point being, it is now necessary in a war to monitor the constant change and upgrade in technology in the
Absolutely.
enemy. So you have to then say what new technology is entering the battle zone. We have to try to capture it or get a piece of that technology, get it back to our technicians to what the hell it is. We got to get it back to our people so we can now get our soldiers trained to say we've got, you know what I mean? The war has a much more dynamic nature, if you know what
absolutely.
I mean.
This is how you adapt. This is how you adapt. You literally learn on the run. And the most secret and most prized thing are this data arrays. Array of this massive combat data, which goes through reports from the level of the squad to the level of the platoon, company, then to the first staff level formation, which is battalion. All of this information streams every day, 24/7, non-stop. It goes through the basically staffs of the higher level from the regiment, let alone to the highest tactical level, which is brigade. It is systematized. It is provided for including for the general staff constantly. We live in the 21st century. It is non-stop 24/7 stream of the data on the targeting, on the effectiveness of the weapons, on how the technology performs, on how personnel performs, what are to the point of what are the medical conditions and things like that. And so this colossal, basically blob of information, which you can accumulate even in a couple of hours, let alone when you within the 24 hours, and it is constantly pumped through the organizations, military organizations. In Russian case, it is the general staff, which on the organ which conducts the combat control and combat operations of the Russian armed forces. It is analyzed and recommendations immediately, not recommendations, sometimes these are orders, also issued to do this, that, and including their communication with the military industrial complex. And it's just to give you example, mangals. What a mangal? Mangal is essentially grill. Okay, this is what it is. This way you make shish kebabs. And you can see yourself the evolution of those mangals, those things over tanks and BTRs and artillery.
Yes.
They were one type. Now, these are organic parts of the armor. They became extremely sophisticated. And I have bad news for those people who were spelling the doom for the tank forces. Wrong. In fact, is they improved so much that, so you have now all those combination of the electronic warfare parts and things like that. And suddenly you have a completely different, approach to the warfare. And guess what? This is military industrial complex, which reacted very fast and organized and produced required mangals, those, anti-drone defense, up to the point, if you take a look, for example, and now if you look at some roads in the tactical rear, you know what you see there? They are all netted. They're just kilometers and kilometers of nets. So you have the literally road, the line of communications, the supply line, and over there, all kinds of the wires and everything, nets everywhere. You can look up the videos of those people driving in the car, and they driving literally the tunnel, which is made out of anti-drone nets, and drones cannot penetrate it. And so guess what? That's how you supply troops on the immediate, from the tactical rear to the line of the combat contact. And yeah, just the way it is. There is always the mean and counter mean, so it's always like that. It's the famous dichotomy of the sword and the shield. And guess what? And again, if not, Ukraine is done. It's just, we know now officially United States is at war with Russia. Period. It's commands the Ukrainian troops. It tried to hide it, but now when they lost it, and again, the total is more than 1.2 million KIAs alone on the Ukrainian side. And Russians are not forgiving United States, 100,000 of Russian soldiers and civilians killed by United States. It is United States which killed it. And so that is why they look at some kind of progress, and Russians are ready to, establish normal working diplomatic relations, which are required from the superpowers. But that's why Trump is frustrated. He thought, yeah, we can, no. You either act or you can continue to be as people, So in Russian stated the condition, you want the real serious negotiations, stop every aid, stop everything. He didn't. So he did kind of, there have been some reshuffling, but they continue to do it.
Let me ask you this. Oreshnik, how does that change the entire to me, that changed the calculations of NATO. Well, first of all, NATO is naked. Let me put it a different way. I wanted to say this to you. As has been said, every 100 years or so, the Europeans, get a stiff upper neck and, we're going to go charge into the Russians, and then they get their butts kicked and they got another 100 years to lick their wounds. Okay. This, I hate to put it this way, they played right into the Russian hands. They couldn't have done it better. It was like a funnel. Ukraine, if I got to fight all of NATO, I'd rather fight them in one little area rather than, I got the front over, I got Finland over here, I got the seas. No. Just put all of your stuff in one little spot. I can blow the hell out of it right here, be done with it once and for all. In a way, if they were stupid enough that, of course, they want to go to Russia and steal all of their oil and gas and all the good little things that Russia has that they want. That's what it's really about. They really played into Russia's hands by saying, let's throw everything into right on the Russians' border. In range, Russia could just lob missiles and Fab Fives all day long, and they demilitarized themselves to a point where NATO will not be an effective fighting force. Well, God, I was going to say for 50 years, their economies are collapsing. It'll be centuries.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
We are looking at the historical inflection point. Something which happens probably between half millennium and millennium, 500 to 1,000 years. Unprecedented, the collapse of the West. That is why I am despairing here that Trump, he is continuing with making it his war. It's going to ruin his presidency. He is surrounded, with some exception. I understand Tulsi is doing proper job, and I understand that she has her hands full at this stage. But other than that, look at Mr. Walz. What the hell? The guy is neocon. I know he's not very bright. I after what we saw, and you're absolutely correct, they are not bright people there in Washington and in Pentagon. Some of them are bright, but they are not allowed anywhere near in the positions of the influence and promotions that you saw yourself what American generals and NATO generals did. They killed 1.2 million people in less than 3 years. This is unprecedented. These are incompetent people militarily. The only thing they know, and even that they do not do well, is how to fight the guys with AK-47s, and Koran and Chalma, what have you, and then sandals. And even that, there they fail. And when you look attentively, those people who are venerated in the U.S. Army, Mr. Cavoli, Supreme Commander of the NATO forces in Europe. Oh, guess what? His background, he has a degree in biology, for crying out loud. And don't give me that you can get those guys through the the 8 months of the war college or, ROTC, and they will be good officers. They are not that good. You saw yourself what happened. They have been defeated everywhere in every single category. And you're absolutely correct. Strategically, they are illiterate. Both, look at the Council on the Foreign Relations. This whole main think tank, all those diplomats and military, they have their own rag, they have cretins there, like, Francis Fukuyama. Look at those guys. They are joke. They think they mistook, as I already stated today with Nima when I was talking to Nima, they mistook the refinement on the everyday life, like drinking better whiskey, better scotch, or driving better car, or maybe even having the ability to speak a couple more languages. They mistook it for culture. Culture is a little bit different. Culture is the, behavioral matrix. And they decided to put their refinement against their history, which is more than 1,000 years, which fought non-stop. I mean, it's like the kindergarten kids go against PhD dude in calculus, and he tries to explain to them what second derivatives or partial derivatives are for starters, or what differential equations are. So these are the type of people, and they go in. They do not understand the strategy. You absolutely correctly stated. They had only one way to do it, which Russians knew. Russians were preparing for this since 2008. Not from 2013. The Russians were once Putin stated in 2007 that famous Munich speech. Remember those smug faces of late McCain and all those Liebermans and all that? They're like, oh yeah, who the hell are you? Well, who the hell you are, guys? Are you? They are amateurs, And so, guess what? Then we have nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. But 5 days war against Georgia. What happened after that? Oh, yeah, we didn't have the Georgian unit, which was in Iraq. Really? It wouldn't have made any difference whatsoever. Russians, basically rolled over them with those NATO trained, NATO equipped, and Israel equipped. And so what the United States does after that? It goes and demands for Russians to turn back their Humvees. It's like, really? Dude, it's like, what the hell? And that's when it all started. And as the result, Russians looked at it and said, screw that. It's all crap, it's coin. It's amateurish, police operations primarily, or some perfect conditions where you can go out and beat the crap out of the third world, third-rate army of Saddam with you fight people who can barely shoot back, essentially. And
still lose.
Still lose, yeah. And now Russia said, well, screw that, screw this crap. Let's throw it away. As actually Academy of General Staff already were saying, people like General Klokotov in 92-93, that it's all crap, basically. It's all anomaly. And so what they do what Russians did. And they did their reform and prepared. And just for those people who do not know, Russian students in 1980s of such, just one of them, universities like famed MGTU, Bauman's MGTU, which is the Moscow Technical University named after Bauman, they already were writing their master's thesis on the use of the hypersonic vehicles. Yeah, half of those theses were secret, but I know a couple of people who actually defended their thesis upon the graduation, which dealt with the hypersonic weapons. So Russians were already into this since hell knows when. And the same goes for other types of the advanced weaponry. So you approach this moment in time, and suddenly everybody will say, oh, boutique weapons, oh, they don't work. Well, it all works, and the concepts have been brought back to what it always was: large-scale continental warfare. Russians did away essentially, or not completely, but from the brigade, the foundation of the army. It all back now to divisions. They said brigade. There was brigade combat teams. Oh, screw that. It just doesn't work like this. So yeah, they have the battalion, but it's a lower tactical, level battalion combat teams. But in terms of the already first independent operations, only divisions. Totally division, configuration of the armed forces. And of course, you load it with all this TOE, table of organizational equipment. You load it with immense firepower, which already have been proven and improved. And Russians, you ask any freaking Russian tanker today, what type of the tank would they want to do? All of them will tell you immediately, T-90M Prorив, the best tank ever. Just absolutely the next best T-72B3. Ask them about the NATO tanks. They said, we're not going to use them, we're not suicidal. So this is just and then of course you saw yourself. And I think it's one of the major factor in this crime, which they committed in 2023 when they killed 160,000 of their troops. It's NATO troops, let's call it. It's not Ukrainian army, it's NATO army. With this counteroffensive, they didn't understand the role of the air defense in the combined arms operations. They simply don't get it. And they bought, this propaganda from Kiev. You have to understand, it's one thing when you have some combat team or crew of the, let's say, Patriot or NASAMS, which is primarily American or European. But totally another when you have the 300 other air defense complexes, which are S-300s, first versions from 1970s and 1980s. They had 1980s and even 1990s versions of the S-300s. And when they tell you, you obviously cannot control completely. And then when they tell you, Ukrainians say, hey, look at this. We shot down today 3 Kinzhals. So American officer who probably has degree in biology and went through ROTC, who has no clue what he's done. You're like, okay, they shot down 3 Kinzhals. Then the other guy, hey, we shot down 4 Zircons tonight. It doesn't matter that they lost all those 4 Zircons. Okay, we shot down 5 Russian planes. So they write this down and they send this crap, into to the Wiesbaden. So those morons who have no clue what they're dealing with, they look at it and say, oh my God, this is awesome air defense. Patriot shoots down. Go look at this, read what Captain Mitchell wrote in the Modern Wars Journal from the West Point. He writes about it. Enormous success of the Patriots and shooting down hypersonic weapons of Russia. Okay. So if you have this assumption, tactical and operational assumption, guess what expects you when you get into the real fight? Suddenly your air defense, instead of performing, is just completely, basically suppressed and killed. And then, what are we going to do? Well, nothing you can do about it. The only thing you have is the man-pads, and you can try to go against the Ka-52s and the Mi-28s, which are extremely well defended, protected against it. And so that is why they need to constantly confabulate things that, we shut down half of the Russian Air Force. Okay. So, and as the result, by the 2023, when they recognized that they have been lied to, and it's all propaganda, it was too late. They already lost the war. But then again, they never read Mr. Svechin, Alexander Svechin, and his strategy. They never applied any lessons. Come on, what kind of lessons can you get when you believe that you defeated Hitler? And those, Red Army was just kind of a sideshow. And General Patton, he would go to Moscow, he would kick this Russian ass. Many of them think like that. They are brought up like this. That's what is being read to them in the military history. It's like unbelievable. You look at this PhD lady, Sarah Payne from US Naval War College. She teaches strategy there. She has no clue about anything. It's unbelievable. And she's PhD. Yeah, she's like, the only thing they admitted that, Russians took the brunt of the war. And she still believes that, Putin is bankrupt, Russia is about to collapse and things like that. There you go. What do you expect? You have nincompoops who go out, get the epaulets, and then get into the real world. And somebody tells them, dude, we have nothing against that. And then suddenly you have the result. And here's the result of the New York Times article that, we were great. We're awesome. These were Ukrainians which screwed it up. Well, I have news for Ukrainian soldiers, especially the initial one. They are better soldiers than American soldiers. They had this toughness. They have been stubborn. There was a heroism. They are, of course, now it's just down to Nazi battalions and Nazi, but initially they're pretty damn well trained, So,
one of the things I think that is revealing is we talked about the U.S. going against, what would be, technologically, economically, and inferior forces, sending, we're going to send some ships out to attack this and just fly over people. Okay. Now the technology has advanced to the point where the Yemen, They have some standoff weapons. They don't have anything really serious, but they have some standoff weapons. But the U.S. is struggling. They're unable to suppress them. They've lost like now upwards of like 16 of these drones that have been shot down, or like $500 million worth. But this is this is the poorest country in the Middle East, and the U.S. was like, yes, we're going to suppress them, and they keep firing missiles. And there's the U.S. They can't have a competent air defense system anywhere in the region because they fire the damn things from Yemen and they make it all the way to Israel with they'll fire one missile and they can't shoot that single missile down. I suspect, and most people do, that American ships have taken a lot more hits from drones and missiles than they are admitting. Your thoughts on that particular, I'm not going to call it a conflict. It shouldn't be a conflict, but the America's inability to suppress Yemen and what that tells us about the U.S. military's capabilities, air defense, et cetera, at this point in time. They seem to be generations behind, to be quite frank.
Yeah, it's whenever they say it's, we have to keep in mind, they love to obviously embellish and, ornaments, like we launched the hypersonic. They don't have hypersonic missiles, obviously. They don't have the even modern anti-shipping missiles. And I think so it's in the backstage communications, which is happening right now. The worst thing the US Navy fears is that, God forbid, somehow they get any kind of, as last time we spoke about, any kind of the version of the Onyx, P-800 Onyx, God forbid, because even 300-kilometer range, which is the export variant, can do, my gosh, I mean, it's a low-flying, sea skimmer, Mach 2.5, and at least, it's not good. So
what kind of ordnance? What kind of ordnance does it have?
It has 350 kilogram, 350 kilogram warhead. And then, of course, you have the supersonic Mach 2.5, which flies into, some people say it's, or God forbid, you had 3M54 export variant, which also 300 kilometers range. It's slow, but it has a very nasty habit. Once it gets into the terminal, which is about usually a radio horizon or something like the radar of the, let's say, aircraft carrier, which is about 40 kilometers give and take, that thing accelerates to Mach 3 and begins to maneuver violently. Good luck shooting it down. So let alone if it's salvo. So that's what I think. So I think is there in communication between Washington and Moscow about Russians saying, no, we do not supply anything. Iran has its own thing to supply there. And even Iran is holding back, I think, so everybody understands. Nobody wants to American sailors to die. Nobody wants American ships to, it's just, everybody understands there's a gray zone, okay? We understand that obviously Houthis basically paralyzed the marine traffic through the Suez Canal and Red Sea. And let me put it this way. For Russians, it's good because it plays into the Arctic Sea route and all that. But the point is that it's still, from the point of view of law, international law, it's obviously outlaw thing. So in a sense, in this particular case, United States is trying to do the right thing for obviously wrong reasons, and they can't. And because the reason they can't, because there is only so much they can do, as we all know about, and it's been said many times. If you look attentively at those cells of the Mk-41 vertical launch system, you have 86 or 92 cells on the RV Burke class destroyer. So you have a 46 front, 46 stern, and so how many of them are loaded with SM-6s, which is the only missile you can use properly against all kinds of the, low-flying threats. So you can probably run out of them pretty fast, if you take a look at it. So how many? They have to carry their Tomahawks. They have to carry different type of ordnance like SM-2, SM-3. And then how many you have those SM-6? Probably 40, 45, about that, maybe less. So, and launch the freaking drones at them, and they will be shooting those SM-6 pretty fast, and like give and take several days of the active combat, and you have one of their early works without air defense. you have to immediately rush something else to defend aircraft carrier. They have those reams, they're short range, sea sparrows, things of this nature. Yes, they do that. But again, drones are cheap. Just launch them constantly, until you completely exhaust their, stocks, and then there you go. You have the
Well,
chance.
might I add this? If you have to pull your punches with Yemen because the U.S. the U.S. Navy would be able to defend themselves from fairly reasonable mid-level to low-level even anti-ship missiles. My God, they would want no parts of Iran or Russia, or I would imagine Iran has some pretty advanced. What type? Well, let's start here. To your knowledge or your suspicions, how advanced would be Iranian anti-ship missiles? Because they seem to be doing pretty good technologically these days.
Yeah, they do have anti-shipping missiles, which are sort of their, how to say it, combination of the Chinese and Russian technology. They have the missiles which emulate P-800 Onyx. They certainly had access to Onyx because Syria had export version of Onyx. And so that allows them to cover pretty much all of the Persian Gulf.
I remember a while back, Hezbollah had showed that they had Onyx. A while back, Hezbollah was demonstrating that they had Onyx.
Oh, they shot at Hanit, Israeli corvette. It was Hanit, Israeli naval vessel Hanit, or ship, INS. Hanit. They shot at it C-802 by China. It's subsonic. But even that, it penetrated the air defense zone and hit them. It's not a very large missile, but it hit them in the stern. So it killed a few people there. And but yeah, it was Hezbollah's, and it was 2006, I believe, during the famous Battle of Litany, where Israeli armor got its butt handed to it. But so yeah, it's now they have a completely different type of weaponry, which is much more difficult to shoot down. It is supersonic, and yeah, I don't know what Russia may provide Iran with. Iran may have now probably bastions. I don't know. We don't know. It's very secretive, to put it politely. The communications in military sphere between Iran and Russia. So. We'll see.
But I would imagine at this point, they've got, I'll put it like this. If the U.S. is struggling with Yemen, they really don't want to get into a position where they're going against a peer or even near peer, because it seems to me that the U.S.'s air defense, missile defense, and missiles have some big problems. Number one, their missiles are slow. Number two, the air defense seems not all that good. But worst of all, their missiles are very expensive, which means they run out quick. And if the salvos will take them out, or if they're in a position where they have to be on station for any period of time, particularly in a conflict area, a day or two, they got to go off station. They have to leave because they're going to be naked. It could possibly be within hours, particularly with all of the sites that the Iranians have set up on their coast.
Yeah. That is why they need Diego Garcia. That is why the only thing, the United States knows how to bomb. And basically what it does, it comes down to, they call it, suppression of air defense. They need the strategic bombers, load with as much as the standoff weapons that they can. It's most likely will be JASSMs, or joint whatever, standoff munition, whatever the hell, all kinds of things of this nature. They go at the line of the launch, far away from air defenses, and launch. Turn around, go, load more, and launch. And so they begin to rotate it. That's the only thing which the United States is good at, because it has means, it still has a strategic force, aviation. And so that's what they're going to be doing, I think. Plus, of course, they will pull in, one of the converted higher class, submarines, which is not strategic missiles, but carries 192, I believe, some 192 Tomahawks. They will launch that. They will unload this package, and they will try to stay the hell away from anywhere near Iranian coast, and they will be launching their aviation from the carriers. That's pretty much standard. The problem is, of course, as countries already signed the letter and communicated to Tehran that whatever happens, we have nothing to do with it. Well, too bad. Qatar, no matter what it writes, it has the largest American base in Qatar. So, and Iranians will be glad to blow the hell out of that, and then whatever the other Middle East bases. So here is the issue. This is what we call about strategy. Those strategies, all those people who write all those funny books, and funny articles, they don't understand. It's 21st century, and if you have base somewhere, unless you have the stand out, air defense, you are soft target. You are fat, prestigious target, and you're going to lose truckload of the personnel and equipment if you continue to do this. Because if you won't have those bases, you would probably move your whatever the U.S. Navy can muster in terms of the carriers. You will try to do this projection of force, but at least you would be safe elsewhere. Iran doesn't care. If anything happens, American bases get blown up and Israel gets it. So in this case, Scott sort of has a point that they might try to do, well, are they suicidal enough to go and do nuclear thing? They're not gonna do complete damage for the basically retaliation force of Iran. And as the B-2 dropped some JDAM, hell knows what, at Yemen a couple days ago, guess what? It didn't penetrate. It didn't do the thing, So, and this is Yemen, okay? So if they think that they can penetrate Iranian underground facilities, I have news for them. Ask Russians for Oreshnik, but Russians are not giving Oreshnik, So it's and this is just it's lose-lose situation. And Trump obviously is being pushed around by neocons, which is expected. So, and those AIPAC guys, Israeli forces, which is practically all Washington, so they won the war, some kind of war. They sense that they had their huge strategic loss. They need also to offset it somehow in PR-wise, because people are beginning to write, especially after those revelations, for the American public, which obviously doesn't watch and listen to Russian military and things like that, which knew it all along. But now for Americans, it's like, oh my God, we were fighting Russians. It was us all along. Yeah, hello, welcome to the real world. And so what is the result of this involvement? Zilch. Russia became much stronger, gained new territories, and kicks American generals' ass, And so what do? You do as always was done. Let's start a little war. But there's no Grenada anymore. There's no Panama. Whom are you going to attack? Oh, let's go big. You have the whole Washington filled with their actually Mossad, agents, and let's go. They have these Christian Zionists, which are basically masturbate to the whole damn thing, just to the end of the times and things like that. So it's a death cult, So let's go big. Yeah, they might go big. Who knows? They're suicidal because United States lost their historical race. Apart from the fact that, which I repeat ad nauseam, United States they lost the arms race. They need to go and talk to Russians and deal with this like normal people would do. Evidently, they don't want to. So may they come big? Possible.
Well, the other thing I think is that looking at the level of technology right now, I'll put it like this. The U.S., when I look at their missiles, like their main missile for long-range attack is like the Tomahawks or JASSMs or anything like that. They don't have hypersonic missiles. They don't seem to be anywhere close. They've got these Patriot missiles, which couldn't even defend the Saudi airfields from Yemen drones. I recall. Yeah, so they can't defend themselves. So now the U.S. is, even threatening Russia. They're threatening China. The other day, a general came out and said, we don't have the industrial base to sustain a war against China. But number one, China's 7,000 miles away. If you just couldn't even fight that war. I was watching something online where China has one factory that can make more missiles in like 12 days than the United States has in its
Yeah.
entire inventory. Their industrial, and let me add this, the Russia-China industrial base combined.
Oh, it's insane. It's insane. There's nothing like this in the world. And that's what I wrote actually today in blog, and I spoke to Nima also, and I will repeat it again. Why did Nixon went for the Nixon shock and got off the gold standard? Oh, no, not some monetary BS. United States at that time already haven't been able to sustain the war in Vietnam. That's why he went there. So, and guess what? United States in 1971 adjusted for the realities and inflation and all that. It was an industrial monster. United States in 1971 makes today's United States look like freaking third world crap hole. United States in 1971 was a monster industrial. It produced everything on its own, everything, literally everything. And some of it was extremely advanced, especially in the aerospace, especially there, so Apollo was still flying, at that time, if I remember. So, and now they couldn't sustain it. That's why Nixon had to kill the Bretton Woods, get into the inflation pattern, which we know today, $34 trillion of the national debt and other things. By 2027, we will have, guess what? Pentagon will be paying more, or rather budget will be paying more in interest than it will be paying in terms of the Pentagon military budget. It's like, you cannot do this, period. If you try to do more, it's like this self-contained, strangle thing. You try to free yourself, it strangles you even more, and
right.
you die. So that's what it is. And hello, wake up, And I think so. This is also part of this panic. And as you correctly stated, the candidate on the chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff, Lieutenant General Kane, he was talking to the Senate Armed Services Committee, on the subcommittee on the armed forces, and he stated, "We cannot sustain the war. We just can't. We don't have anything. We don't have industry." So Russia outproduces United States in military. It's not even funny. China, it has the shipbuilding alone. It's a monster. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just never seen before. They have the industrial capabilities just defy imagination. So, if anything else, not by technology alone, by the mass alone, they can overwhelm you. You will be trying to kill them. They have 25 million mobilization reserve, immediate mobilization reserve. That means what? They can put 25 million people under the, with the guns, armed, trained, fed. So good luck fighting that. So it's like, what happens? You go nuclear. That's the only thing. In the United States,
didn't they just do an exercise around Taiwan here the last week? Again, demonstrating that anytime they wanted to take Taiwan, it would be ours.
Yeah. That's what they are. So, and again, it's just then you have Wang Yi, Minister of the Foreign Affairs, coming to Russia 2 days ago. He met Putin, met his counterpart Lavrov, and you hear those statements. It's all about, we need to build a better world. We're going to work. We are very close across the board. China supports Russia, diplomatically, all that. So, So Trump wants the tariffs on Russian oil. Okay, sure. Yeah, he wants to blow up the market. So let him do it.
I'll end by saying this. As the U.S. empire deteriorates, the Democrats and the Republicans both have different means. The Biden administration, Trump administration have different ways that they're trying to save or reconstitute the empire. But here's what I've noticed. Every single thing they do only makes it collapse faster. Exactly. Every action they take increases the speed of collapse rather than, they'd be better off just to kind of ride it out. But when they're like, oh, we're going to go after Russia, then it goes down. Oh, we're going to tariff and sanction people faster. Everything they do, it's
Yeah.
like quicksand, as you said. It's like quicksand. The more you struggle,
Yeah, the more you kill yourself. And this is this horrible vicious circle. And the only way he could do it is to call Moscow, call Putin, says, we stop immediately all aid, we remove all forces, we remove all our generals, shut down this goddamn Wiesbaden, command and control center. And so, Vladimir, what can you offer us? And we do this and this, we lift sanctions, or, and Russia would have said then, okay, if you do this in action, not words, sure. You see, we have like huge deposits of oil, gas, all kinds of things. Do you want to part of it? And the first thing, instead of then trying to get Greenland, so who knows, he might get it. But instead of that would have been multi-billion, huge, operations in which would, let's restore our, cooperation in the space. Let's do this. Well, too late now.
Yeah. Well, they've made it. In America, they've made it so expensive for the average person to live that even if we open factories, the amount of money they would have to pay, it's so expensive for people to buy a home. People can't afford a home. They want $60,000 for an average car, and people can't afford a car to send their kids to college. If they opened a factory now, the amount of money you have to pay a person, the factory, what they made would not be competitive. They have preyed on their own people to a point where
they have option American South as they moved 787 assembly Boeing to Mississippi and poor southern states. Well, they call it right to work. That means they don't have trade unions or what have you. So they paid them about half what they would pay them here in Everett or Renton. Yep. So, and of course, as a result, they also have the issues with the 787. Then even their customers, Arabs, say, we don't want that. It's bad quality, And so they have issues. But this is what they do. It's aerospace. And obviously requirements are very high. But if they want to return some kind of assembly, they have experience with, let's say, Subaru, which is in Indiana, gigantic center. I mean, all my Subarus, which I drove in my life, were assembled in Indiana. So they probably would have better luck in moving a lot of things to the south with the low pay, so they might try this. But the problem is they cannot return these high-end industries, especially military industries, which, when you look attentively, how do you produce? Remember this long-range hypersonic weapon? They're still deploying it 5 years later. And it's just like...
we're generations behind. The U.S. is literally generations behind. And just like I said, as the empire goes down, everything they do only makes it go down faster. They're generations behind. And they're getting behind faster. They're not catching up to Russia and everybody else. They're getting further and further behind till it will get to the point where basically we'll have an arrow and a bow and arrow up against a machine gun. I mean, that's when you talk about Oreshnik, when you talk about Zircon, and you talk about a ship or a submarine, you can put a couple of, several of them across the Atlantic. And we can't get a ship from one side to the other because they're all covered by missiles.
Yeah,
it's over. It's over.
Just as already stated, United States cannot support any force in real war in Europe because it will have no place to unload its even whatever will be able to get through. So it's nothing like World War II, Oh yeah, you get those, escort carriers, you get British Royal Navy, and you get the U.S. Massive, powerful Navy and massive, industrial capacity of building Liberty ships. So you have this train, just going there. And of course, they fight U-boats and all that. You have the aviation, development of the new methods of the anti-submarine warfare. This time is over. They will hear and see you 1,500 kilometers away, okay? And nothing you can do. It's once they see you, it's targeting, okay? They will launch within a minute or two, and that's it. And you're done. You cannot stop either salvo of, salvo of Onyx, or let alone, God forbid, Zircon. You just can't stop. You're done. And so yeah, the ranges, speeds, everything it's completely different. We are living essentially what even 30 years ago would have been. It's like, my favorite movie, The Countdown, with Kirk Douglas. He plays the captain of the USS Enterprise, modern USS Enterprise. And so you have those guys on the eve of the December 7th, 1985, whatever, and they get through the warp into the on the eve of the Pearl Harbor. And they decide this moral dilemma, which is actually a fascinating thing, you know. That's when Hollywood was creating things which are like, oh my God, this is not just some, BS from, the people have moral choices. They have and you literally get involved. And look at this. We were Soviet people, and we're like, dude, no, just go keep the goddamn Japanese ass, those F-14s and all that. But then they say we cannot change and we have to go back. And so, that's a wonderful movie. But this is what you get essentially. They fly with the zeros against F-14s, How many chances do you have against it? Well, not. So, and there you go. That's the movie. That's what we actually are playing right now. And they missed it. They slept. Well, they always slept, but they were so low culture. They didn't have class, so they believed that Soviet Union collapsed and that somehow it will make Russia weaker. It actually turned out to be, absolutely otherwise. I mean, they didn't understand that Russians, and it was a tragedy. I lived through this tragedy. If not for that, I wouldn't be in the United States, because I lived through the collapse and the horror of the early 90s in Russia. But the point is, by unloading those fringes, especially Middle Asia, which still is a Russian market, but nobody pays money them for doing whatever they were, because it was essentially a Russian Federation, Russian people who were carrying the burden of this empire, supplying all this, to their fringes, from Caucasus to Middle Asia to Ukraine, which got, essentially modernized through the Soviet Union, which was Russian Federation. Famous Antonov Bureau, guess what? It had nothing to do with Kiev. It was actually from Novosibirsk. It was ordered to go to Kiev to keep Kiev and, Ukraine look like, So, and as a result, some of the Russians dropped this, and you see the result. Whoever will ask me, is Russia stronger than Soviet Union? Orders of magnitude, militarily and economically. And so when you look at this, this is what happens. Could they have counted on that? They never did. They never understood what was happening.
No. Well, Andrei, everybody don't forget, Andrei has his blog, his Reminiscence of the Future. He has his YouTube, Smoothie X12. Make sure you follow his blog. Make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel. Certainly his Patreon, and buy me a coffee so you can support his work. Oh my gosh, I forgot to even put my banner down there. There we go. So it's at the last minute, but it has Rockfin, it has my Telegram, certainly Patreon, PayPal, buy me a coffee if you can afford it. If you can't, don't worry about it. Just make sure you share this on all your social media platforms. And of course, follow Andrei at Smoothie X12, his YouTube show. I never miss one. They're usually about 30 minutes, and they're very informative for those who need to learn about what's going on the front, militarily, etc. Thanks a lot, Andrei. Look forward to talking to you soon. All right, everybody, don't forget, share this. We're out.